Welcome to Career and Leadership Real Talk, the no-nonsense guide for ambitious managers who want to have more impact and progress their career. I'm Pamela Langan, a job search coach and expert CV writer specialising in helping frustrated professionals land the jobs and pay rises they know they deserve.
And I'm Jackie Jagger, a leadership and mindset coach specialising in helping newly promoted and new to role leaders to avoid the dickhead trap and lead with confidence. Between us, we've helped hundreds of leaders and managers to find new roles, take ownership of their careers, and handle the challenges that job searches and leadership responsibility inevitably bring. And now we're joining forces to share with you what we know has worked for our clients.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode. Today we are talking about performance management. And we all know, as a manager or a leader, this is something that is just part of the day job, something that we have to do, something that we're not always trained to do. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk you through a framework that you can use to make performance management easy, to get the most out of your teams. And Jackie is going to talk us through one that she's used quite a lot with her own teams. And it's something that we also use within the training that we do. So, Jackie, tell us about this amazing framework that is going to just change our lives when it comes to performance management.
So, I love this. I talk about this as being like the Swiss Army knife of performance management because it's a framework and a tool that you can use in a whole range of situations. I think performance management is often thought of as the negative side. It's often thought of as it's something I have to do with individuals using a formal process if somebody is underperforming. And so that can create a mindset around performance management that isn't that great. Whereas the idea with this is it's really versatile. So you can use it in that situation where somebody's underperforming, but you can also use it where somebody is performing and you maybe want to stretch them. It can be used if you're wanting to help somebody prepare for a promotion. It can be used when you have new people coming on board. And it's a tool that is there to enable diagnosis of why is the current performance level what the current performance level is, and then also prescription of, and now what changes could enable this person to perform better.
Yeah, and when you first showed me this, I just thought it's so clever because it's a really easy acronym to remember. It's something that you can literally go through. You can work out where your team is at and what level of support you need to give them. So talk us through it because it's got quite a cool name. And because I think it could even be an alcoholic drink, but it's not.
I'd never even thought of it that way. So the framework is called BECKS, which is the acronym BECKS. And what this does is says for each of these, they have a contributing factor towards performance. So the B stands for behavior. And this is about saying, what behaviors am I seeing from this person? Are those the behaviors that I want for the required level of performance? And if not, what behavioral changes would need to happen in order for somebody to be considered a higher performer? Your E is environment. This is looking at things like physical environment. So, for example, does somebody perform better when they are in an open plan environment, when they have people around, where they can bounce ideas off or where they can ask questions and get clarification? Or is this person going to perform better if, for example, they work in a quiet space, or if they have headphones, or if they work from home? So you've got that side of environment. But environment also considers things like the resources, the systems, processes, those kinds of factors that impact on somebody's performance in the workplace as well.
So I think with those two, it's quite clever, isn't it? Because one of the first things that we notice about somebody is their behavior, whether that's good, bad. Usually if it's good or bad, isn't it? Like we're always able to notice behavior, but then we don't really analyze that behavior, do we, enough to think, okay, what is affecting this person's behavior? What impact is this person's behavior maybe having on the rest of the team? There's a lot more to it, isn't it, than just saying, does this person behave well in the workplace or not? And I think the environment bit is quite clever as well, because thinking about how each person performs within the environment, because where you were saying there, like somebody might work better with earphones on. I used to, when I was in the corporate world, I used to put my earphones in and just power through emails and all of that kind of stuff. I needed that focus and when I had the earphones in, nobody came over and spoke to me. So that was really great. And then I'd take them out when I was open to people having conversations. But that also made people feel uncomfortable as well. And I suppose it almost becomes like a cultural thing, doesn't it? Like when you're thinking about behaviors and environments, it's more than just you and your team. It's almost like a business-wide culture, isn't it? It's how do we treat each other? How does our behavior impact, and what kind of environment works for us as individuals and then for the team?
Absolutely. And they feed in. So the C is for clarity. And this is about clarity of expectation. So behaviors, what often happens, I've seen this a lot when I was working within HR and having conversations with line managers about performance management. There's an assumption that people know what behaviors are expected, but it hasn't always been made explicit. It hasn't always been checked that person has the same understanding as you. And that comes to what you were describing there about culture, of if there isn't clarity of expectation, then somebody can be operating in a way that thinks it's completely okay to behave that way. And I'm also seeing quite a lot more recently discussion and awareness and understanding that when you've got people who are neurodivergent as part of your team, that different behaviors may be easier or more difficult for people to exhibit, depending upon whether they're neurotypical or neurodivergent, and specifically in what form that might take. So I think this is a really crucial piece that helps to consider, if I analyze that behavior, what am I seeing that I don't want to see? What am I not seeing that I do want to see? How specific have I been? And have I really set that expectation? And equally, with the environmental piece, to your example, is it okay for people to work from home days and times that they choose? So that might not be something that I, as a manager, have control over, but actually, I may have a degree of control over it. I might be able to have the freedom and autonomy to create more of the type of environment that I know is going to get the best out of my people.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good point, that as well, because I think sometimes when you're going through all of this stuff, it's hard at the start to go, okay, we need to go through everything. We need to make sure that we know what behaviors are acceptable, what isn't, and go through it. But actually, if you start observing on a day-to-day basis, you can go, right, okay. And it's almost like you can make a note and go, right, okay, that behavior wasn't what I was expecting. So what do I need to do as the manager or the leader to speak to that person to make sure that doesn't happen again, or to maybe manage their expectations or give them some support and training that allows them to communicate better next time. And it's almost that taking ownership and self-awareness as a leader and a manager as well, because you can go through this with your team, but you also need to then be aware of what you do want and what you don't want. And you won't have all of the answers. And sometimes that can be really daunting, especially if you're a new manager or leader. Like that can be super scary, because you're like, I haven't got all the answers and I don't really know what I want, but I know I want that to stop, or I know I want to see more of that. So how do I articulate that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the K then, so behavior, environment, clarity of expectation. The K is knowledge. And this is about, does that person have the knowledge to be performing at the required level? Or if you're looking at more of a situation of a developmental performance management where you're wanting to help somebody to progress, what knowledge do they need that they don't currently have that would be helpful to them? So this is looking at, has this person actually got the awareness and understanding of the things that are going to allow them to perform at the level that is either required or that we're aspiring to.
Yeah, and that was a key one for me, the knowledge element when I was managing quite a large customer service team, because one of the things that I realized is that most of them had been there a long time. So it was expected that they had that knowledge, that they already knew all of that information. And actually, that was really linking into underperformance. And they were hiding from it because the shame of being in a role 10, 12 years and not knowing all of the information or having all of the knowledge. It was up to me to then break that down in a way that they felt comfortable with, but allowed them to grow and learn and fill those knowledge gaps. And it really did help.
Yeah. It's amazing how, when you break it down this way, and that's why I love it as a tool, you start to pinpoint things that might have otherwise gone unnoticed. And knowledge is a really good example where, when you might make an assumption, for example, that it's about behavior, and then the reality might be that they don't know. They just don't have the information. So they're behaving in a way that is not what you want. But actually, when you get under the skin of it, it's because they lack the knowledge. So they might, for example, take decisions or take actions because their knowledge is lacking. And so when you start to explore, you can start to pick out some of this. And it's our favorite word, specificity. That's what BECKS really does. It helps you to get really specific about the different elements that contribute to overall performance. So our final one, the S, is skill. And this is different from knowledge because this is about the application. So you might have the theoretical knowledge, you might have the informational side covered, but there is also that question of, do you have the skill to put those other elements together? Does this person have the skill to deliver what is expected of them? And if you take, for example, within a sales team, you might have knowledge, product knowledge, you might have expected behaviors, you might have the environment side of processes, but you might still have someone that is falling short in terms of their ability to convert. And so this is about understanding, how do people bring those other factors together and demonstrate or not demonstrate the required level of skill. And again, if you're looking at more of the aspirational, developmental stuff, what skills is this person going to need to acquire in order to progress, be ready for the next level, be able to hit the ground running when they get a promotion? So yeah, behavior, environment, clarity of expectation, knowledge, and skill is our full 5.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that. And I do think if you take each person in your team through that, and then you can almost map out where are the gaps, what do we need to work on. It could even be that different people could buddy up with each other to improve certain elements. So I do think, like, when you took me through it, I was like, do you know what? This is what you know that you do, but there's no real framework that you follow. And this puts it all into perspective for you.
It's an informal performance management tool. And that's what I love about it, because what happens if you start using formal performance management policies, procedures, processes without having the skill to informally manage performance, is that you can impact somebody's confidence. So if you have somebody where they are underperforming and you then get to the point where you're right, okay, the formal process says that we do a PIP, the first thing that it impacts is that person's confidence. And when people are lacking in confidence, then they perform less well than they do if they're confident. So this really helps to put some structure around that informal performance management where people are underperforming. But it also really helps. We've talked, as I've gone through, about the opportunities of what's next. What does that person aspire to? The case that we haven't really spoken about, and where it's really helpful, is if you are planning and preparing, need to accelerate somebody's performance, for example, during an onboarding. So if somebody is joining the organization, or if somebody is making an internal move into your team, then it can really help you to think about, what do I need to make explicit in terms of behaviors? What culturally, how do we do things around here within this team? What are the expectations that I need to make clear? And then from an environment perspective, what resources do they need access to? What is the environment that they work best in? And I might need to have a conversation and understand what does work well for them so that they can perform at their best. And that's such a positive conversation to have with someone that's joining your team, to be able to say, look, this is the framework. These are some of the behavioral things that are specific, that this is how we operate within this team. And I wanted to make this clear to you and give you the chance to ask questions around it. Talk to me about, how do you work best? Where do you work best? What enables you to perform at your best? And you start to facilitate some of these great conversations. But you also then are pushed to think about, okay, what knowledge or skill does this person need? Do I know their skill level? If I've done a recruitment exercise, or if they are internal and just making a move, what evidence is there of their skill level? And again, it facilitates some great conversations during those early phases of working together.
Yeah, and then I think you've also got with that's you've got like your new starters and you've got your underperformers, but then you've got those rising stars that kind of sit in the middle of that. Those ambitious ones that are like ready to go, ready to take off. And sometimes they can feel like their wings are being clipped because you're trying to maybe look at the whole team and keep everyone together and keep everyone working at the same level, or trying to make everyone into a high performer. Whereas I feel like this model is really good to look at people as individuals, and especially those ones that are like ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've got people that potentially could be a flight risk if they don't get some development, or maybe overlooked, especially if you've got that situation where there might not be an opportunity for promotion, but they've got a lot of potential, then those people often will be very open to taking ownership of working with this and running with it. It helps to explore what might keep their interest, what might be some of the ways that you can support their development. And even if that means that at some point they're going to go somewhere else, if you explore things like, what knowledge or skill do they want to build for their future career? What are they interested in? What do they feel most drawn towards? What elements of their job do they really enjoy and want to learn more about? Then again, for those people, it can really act as a retention tool. Even if there's no direct opportunity for them to progress, it can really help for that person to feel invested in, and to feel like you as their manager have shown interest, have really tailored the approach. And the great thing about those type of people is they do run with it. And once you have those conversations and set them off in the direction, they will very often then take that and run with it. But even just having the conversation and having some of that awareness can also help you to be attuned to, okay, where else might they be able to help? Where else might they be able to get involved? So I remember a situation where I had someone, there wasn't going to be a promotion opportunity, but they really loved training and development. And so that was a lot of what we picked up, was, how can you develop yourself as a trainer? How can you become more effective? We use them for training within the region that I was in. And that gave them something else from the role, even though there was no carrot that I could dangle of an opportunity for promotion.
Yeah, and I think something that you can also consider, isn't it? Because there is no ways those incentives that you can give, but helping somebody to develop is going to be way more valuable to them overall across their entire career than just giving them a little bit of a pay rise or a little bit of an incentive. So I absolutely love this. So in terms of making it work across your team, just making it work generally, like where can people start with it?
So, what I always recommend to people is to start by applying it to yourself. So, to use it as a tool to assess, which category do I consider myself in? So, for example, if I feel like I'm not performing to my potential currently, analyze and use it to ask yourself questions to get an understanding of, where is it falling down? Am I lacking clarity? That's often one of the ones that comes out of expectation, but to apply it to yourself. If you are considering yourself, as I think most of our listeners would, as someone with potential, then where could I start to focus in order to be considered ready for that next level? What are the things that I most need to develop? And when that's the case, it's very often the behavioral stuff. So we've got an episode planned on executive presence, and that's a classic example that it's often not, if you're wanting progression, if you're wanting to further your career, it's often not knowledge. It's often combination of behavior and skill. So behavior and terms of being perceived and behaving as if you are more senior, but also the skill of influence and impact. So apply it to yourself, consider how you can use it as a development tool for yourself, and then start to bring this in to conversations with your team members during their one-to-ones. So if you have a regular cycle, once a quarter, once every 6 months, of having career conversations with members of your team, then that can be an ideal time to do it. You could introduce it within a team meeting and share how you've used it and encourage people to self-reflect. Or you could use it to pinpoint if you have got a situation where you've got someone that's not performing, then you could form the structure of the conversation. You don't necessarily have to share the framework with them, but what you could do is form the structure of the conversation around these 5 areas in terms of, where is this person at? Where do I need to get them to in order for them to be performing at the level that I need?
That was a brilliant overview. And I think if you're listening to this and you're thinking, could really use some support around this, whether that's for you on a one-to-one basis or whether you would like us to come and work with your team, then get in touch, because we can talk you through all of the options. And the executive presence workshop that Jackie mentioned, we're running that in career clubs. Feel free to check Career Club out as well. We'll put the link in the show notes. And as usual, make sure that you rate and review us on your favorite podcast platforms. And we will be back next week with another episode.
Exciting news from us. If you're an ambitious leader or manager earning 50k or more and you're ready to take your career to the next level, we have an opportunity for you. Introducing Catalyst Career Club, your secret weapon for unlocking career success. As a member, you'll get access to monthly live training sessions, exclusive job opportunities, and the ability to get personalised advice from us on your toughest career challenges.
We've helped thousands of driven leaders like you secure significant pay rises, land dream roles, and thrive in their careers. And now we want to support you in achieving your most ambitious career goals too. Membership is just $6.99 per month with no contract or tie-in. And as a special bonus for being our podcast listeners, you can use the code podcast at checkout to get your first month for just £1. Head over to pamelalangan.com/Catalyst Career Club to sign up now, and we'll see you inside.